the resistance to delegating, to letting others do things, comes from a leadership paradigm of me being the authority, like me as the leader being on top and having the vision and having the plan and having the strategy. And then my job being to tell people what to do in order to implement that strategy. It really comes from a leadership paradigm that says, I know better. And I'm just going to bring you guys in and I'm going to tell you what I need you to do in order to make this happen. Overwhelm, reaction mode, and just keeping up are the old way.
You need real, root-level strategies and practical steps to grow your business or ministry without exhaustion and burnout.
Hi there, we're Anna Saucier
And Megan Gephardt,
best friends and business consultants who help faith-filled women create sustainable growth through simple strategy with a people-first approach.
Here at Apostolic Fruit, we hope to offer you clarity, support, accompaniment, and healing,
one tiny step at a time. It is one of the hardest things that we do as leaders to surrender control. Can you relate? That word control. I bet everybody who's listening can resonate with different places in your life, in your business, where it is really challenging to surrender that control. In business, it may be delegating, whether delegating tasks, delegating projects, delegating ownership over projects, delegating decision-making. In life, we can relate to this if you have children, delegating doing the dishes or cleaning the toilets. Inevitably, in both situations, whether it's your team members, employees or contractors, or children or husbands, they're not going to do it the way that you would do it. And why is that so difficult to let go of? I bet that you have told yourself many times, and if you are growing a business, if you have even one team member or a whole team, or you have children, you may have told yourself in the past many times, I just need to delegate more. I need to let go of some things. If only so-and-so could take this over. If I just had someone to do all of the marketing. If someone would just clean my house. Like, we can recognize in ourselves this desire for support, this desire to not be juggling, to be doing, to be carrying all of the things. Can you relate to the phrase, to the belief, it's all on me? I want to talk about this belief of it's all on me because it is very pervasive to us as leaders, to us as mothers. And I want to break it down and start asking some questions around it and invite you and challenge you to look more deeply into it because it is a cause of a lot of the struggle of a leader to get the support that you need. So let's talk about why it is such a struggle, why it's present. If you've been listening for a while, you know that we bring these things out for awareness. We never want to bring them out in shame. There's always a reason that these patterns exist within us and in our way of operating and in our way of behavior. So we're not here to say, well, you got to stop doing that. Just stop thinking it's all on me and just start delegating. As if it were that easy, if only it were that easy. But it's not. Because it's not, it's a surrender to that to say, all right, we're just going to go in and seek to understand it more. Instead of that pathway of judgment and shame, let's take the pathway of curiosity. So let's talk about that. One reason for this is there's uncertainty. It's hard to let go and allow others to take ownership over tasks, over projects, because then I have less certainty around it. Goes back to that control thing, right? And our brains and nervous systems are wired to create as much of an environment of certainty as possible. We want to know what's going to happen because that's safe. This is how our human system works. We want to know that we're going to be okay. That's how God made us. That's okay. That's good. The second reason that this is present is because if somebody else is going to be doing it, they're probably going to make mistakes. And we can anticipate that because we make mistakes, because humans make mistakes. Because they're not going to do it the way that we would do it. They're going to do it differently. And sometimes that's going to require a correction, but it also requires connection. It requires connection in order to make the correction. In order to make an adjustment to that in a way that is in alignment with the vision that you have for the company, for the mission, for whatever project they're working on. And that takes more energy. In a way, it's going to ask more of you. Now, if we make these shifts in a strategic way, it doesn't actually ask more of you, it asks something different of you. Okay, but the feeling, the heaviness around letting others in and delegating and letting go of this control, one of the reasons for that resistance is it's going to give me more to do, right? Okay, number 3, another reason for this resistance is that you care deeply and probably have a certain level of attachment to this organization, to this mission that you are the leader and visionary for. And that's also a good and beautiful thing. You probably started it. You came up with it. It comes from deep in your heart space. So of course it has a lot of meaning for you. And so you care deeply for it. And when you care deeply for something, it is difficult to let it go. Number 4 reason is gets a little bit more edgy. We need to recognize that there is a certain pridefulness in this space as well. If I'm operating from a space of, it's all on me, I'm just going to have to take care of all of it, I'm just going to have to do it myself if I want to do it right. I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't bring awareness to the pridefulness that is present here. And again, that's not to shame anything. It's just to bring awareness. And then the 5th thing I want to bring forward as an internal reason that this is often present, the difficulty of letting go, the resistance to delegating, to letting others do things, comes from a leadership paradigm of me being the authority, like me as the leader being on top and having the vision and having the plan and having the strategy. And then my job being to tell people what to do in order to implement that strategy. It really comes from a leadership paradigm that says, I know better. And I'm just going to bring you guys in and I'm going to tell you what I need you to do in order to make this happen. So with these 5 things, I want to invite awareness into, if you are operating from this space, if you can recognize in yourself this, it's all on me-ness, then one of these 5 things or a multiple of them, I recognize in myself pieces of all 5 of them at different times. So I'm right here in this with you. But it's important to bring awareness of what's underneath the way that you're operating before we begin to consider operating differently. And in the different way of operating, we paint a little picture of this for you, starting with a relationship with God and His purpose for us. God doesn't want to be that kind of leader that I talked about, the top-down one that says, I have the vision, I have the plan, and I want you to just do what you're told. A lot of times we can come from that kind of spiritual paradigm and that kind of relationship with God. That was very much my understanding for decades. But I believe that He rather wants to be co-creative with us. He wants to be in it with us. He wants to be talking and collaborating and learning and growing together. And so we can use this vision of God's leadership as an example for our own. So if you want to do that, how do we begin to make the shift? You say, I want to be that kind of leader. I want to be collaborative. I want to be co-creative. I want to recognize that my team members have their own gifts and insights and wisdom to bring to the table in this organization. They see things that I can't see. There is a certain level of humility to practice here as a leader who wants to do this in a different way, to let others in and to delegate more, to be able to trust others. And so I want you to think about the different, very specific examples where these reasons where we struggle to delegate, we struggle for this more collaborative space as a leader, where do those play out in very specific ways? So let's use an example of, let's say you have been maybe writing all of the email copy. Maybe you've written everything, the emails with high-level partnerships, our marketing emails. You write the copy for landing pages. And then I see this so much. Leaders and entrepreneurs, business owners, they say, if somebody could just do my marketing. That would require giving up a level of trust, placing that trust in someone else in order to speak the quote unquote right words, in order to make the connection that you want to make with the people that they're communicating with that feels right from your attachment and your care for the work that you do. And so in this particular instance, or if this one doesn't resonate with you, pick some kind of specific circumstance where you struggle to surrender control, where you would love to, but you're not. That's a really key point of awareness to bring forth and to just admit to yourself, I want help here, but I'm not letting someone help me. And so I want to invite you to ask yourself in this, if we could tie this back to the it's all on me belief, as you bring awareness to this within yourself, asking yourself, is it all on me? Is it really? Or am I hanging on to it? And in what ways am I hanging on to it? So look at one or more of those specific circumstances and notice what plays out in that circumstance. Let's consider that it's the emails. Do you have a policy or a need to review every email before it goes out? And if that's true, then I want to invite you to ask yourself, well, what if I don't? What if I didn't review this next email that went out? What would happen? And here, I want you to not just focus on what would happen externally. You do that too. You could say, well, the wrong piece of information might go out, or they wouldn't say it in the way that I would say it. And in addition to those external things that might happen, I wanted you to look within yourself and consider what might happen inside. Close your eyes and think about that situation. What if I don't review that? How would I feel? You might feel tension. You might feel anxiety. You might feel discomfort. If you are in a position where you would feel like, no, I can't do that, then that too is okay. You don't have to force yourself to do this differently. In fact, don't. It's not a good idea. Because then you're just pushing through, trying to make yourself operate in a different way. You're going to first bring awareness to what is. So if you consider that circumstance and then you say, okay, well, that would be really uncomfortable, but this is something that I do want to work toward. I want to let go. I want to grow that trust in my team because I want to trust them. They're amazing people. They have incredible insights. And I'm recognizing a lack of trust within myself. That is such beautiful, vulnerable awareness. And with that, you can continue to go deeper and ask yourself, this is a really helpful phrase, so what? We can say, okay, so if I don't review that email and it goes out and there's a mistake, so what? And really, really ask yourself, what does that mean? Okay, it means there was a mistake. It means that another email might need to go out to correct the mistake. It means that I might want to have a conversation with that team member. What does it mean inside of you? It's really important to preemptively walk through these very specific circumstances when we want to do something differently. Because when you take the space and time to do it ahead of time, it's not so uncertain. It's not so unknown. It's not so scary. because we can walk through every level and say, okay, this happens. Okay, so what? What does that mean? And then what will I do? And then how will I approach the situation? How do I want to approach talking to that person? Maybe that will give us information and learning about a structure that we can put in place, about some guidelines or boundaries that we can create. And that learning needs to happen in order to have that information to create that structure and boundaries within which the soil of trust can grow. So there's going to be this tension in the middle. There's going to be this messiness in the space where you as the leader has to start with you to say, okay, what is one step that I can take to release a bit of this control, to surrender to some trust? And then guess what will happen down the road? This begins to change things within you. This gives the team and the relationships with these people some more structure and some more boundaries. As an opportunity for those to come out and to establish the structure and boundaries that everyone needs to feel safe. And then what you'll start to see come out is that person's gifts and creativity. When that trust is given, just like with our kids, and we have the humility enough to say, okay, do the dishes. And inside I can tell, oh man, they're not going to be clean. I'm going to have to redo them. There's going to be water all over the floor, yeah? So what? Okay, so I'll clean up the water. I'll thank them for doing the dishes. And then when it's a good time, I'll show them how to feel and use their sense of touch to see if there's anything else, sticky food and stuff left on the plate. And that's going to be my plan. We can assess and create that safety within ourselves. I say, okay, I can let this be okay. And then it plays out and we can learn from it. It starts with that recognition and that awareness inside that allows us to do it with their team. And then guess what? Imagine the spiritual consequences of being able to do this with ourselves and with other humans. How much more able then are we to trust God, to do His work, to use His gifts, rather than operating in this space of it's all on me. And if I'm in it's all on me inside and with my team, then you better believe that's how I'm operating with God too. We cannot separate those ways of being. And so all of these things come integrated together. That's how the work within our business and within ourselves has a much bigger impact in our relationship with God and the impact that our team and mission can have in the world. Because I'm not trying to do it all myself. Thank you for being open to going into these spaces with me. It's not your normal, here's the plan for delegating more, and here's the spreadsheet, and here's how to execute this over the next 6 months. Those things are important. We do need to have the structure and the organization, and that gives us ways of communicating clearly about what's going to happen. And we cannot ignore the internal shifts that are necessary in letting things go and inviting others into co-creation as we give birth to this mission together.
We hope you loved today's episode. If so, would you take a moment to share it with a friend?
If you haven't already, come connect with us human to human at apostolicfruit.com/connect. When you're ready, we'd love to support you more deeply.
May the Lord bless you and keep you, make His face shine upon you and be gracious to you,
and turn His face toward you and give you peace.